Hello viewer, this is Krishna sir. In this session, I am going to give you introduction to quadratic equation. Now let us see the definition of quadratic equation. So a polynomial which is equal to 0 is called an equation. So for an equation to become a quadratic equation, it should satisfy two conditions. Now let us see what are these conditions. So first thing is the equation which you have taken should contain only one variable. For example, I will say x square plus 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. So this, if you observe this equation, in this equation you have only one variable, that is x. You don't have more than one variable. So a equation should contain only one variable. This is the first condition. Now the second condition is the highest power or the degree of the equation should be 2. So if you see here, the highest power of the x is 2. So this is a quadratic equation. If the highest power or the degree of the variable is greater than 2 or if it is less than 2, then we cannot say that it is a quadratic equation. Now let us understand the definition of quadratic equation through some examples. For example, I will say one equation x square plus y square is equal to 0. So if you observe here there are two variables. So if the equation has two variables, you can't call this a quadratic equation. So the highest power of the variables is 2. Okay, that's fine. But here you have two variables. So you cannot call this a quadratic equation. Now let us take some other example. Say x cube plus 2x square plus 3x plus 4 is equal to 0. So if you observe this equation, the highest power of the variable x is 3. So it is not equal to 2. The highest power of the variable x is 3. So you can't call this a quadratic equation. So this is not a quadratic equation. So for an equation to be a quadratic equation, it should have only one variable, and the second thing is the highest power of the variable should be equal to 2. Only then we can say that such an equation is called an quadratic equation. Now I will give you some examples for a quadratic equation. So for example, say x square plus 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. If you observe this equation, it is having only one variable x, and the highest power of the variable x is 2. So it is satisfying both the conditions. So this is called a quadratic equation. So now let us see the standard form of the quadratic equation. So the standard form of quadratic equation is ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0, where this a, b, if you see this a is the quotient of x square, b is the quotient of x, and c is a constant. So this a comma b comma c should be real numbers. All this, the a, b, c should be real numbers, and a should not be equal to 0. The value of a should not be equal to 0. If the value of a is equal to 0, that is if the quotient of the variable x square, if it is equal to 0, then we cannot call it a quadratic equation. Now let us see one example. For example, I say x plus 3 is equal to 0. This is an equation, but this is not a quadratic equation. Now I'll write this x plus 3 is equal to 0 as 0 plus x plus 3 is equal to 0. So 0 plus x plus 3 is nothing but x plus 3 only. So I will write this 0 as 0 into x square. 0 into x square plus x plus 3 is equal to 0. So 0 into x square is nothing but 0. So if you compare this equation with the standard form of quadratic equation, I will get a value is equal to 0, b value is equal to 1, quotient of x, and the c value is 3. So because here the value of a, that is the quotient of x square is equal to 0, then we cannot say that this is a quadratic equation. So x plus 3 is equal to 0. This equation x plus 3 is equal to 0 is not a quadratic equation. So for an equation to be a quadratic equation, it should have only one variable. Okay, it should contain only one variable. Second thing is the highest power of the variable should be equal to 2, and the value of a, that is the quotient of x square, should not be equal to 0. Only when a equation follows these three conditions, only then we can say that the given equation is a quadratic equation. So this is the introduction to quadratic equation. So in future videos, I will be coming up with more problems on quadratic equation. I will show you how to check whether the given equation is a quadratic equation or not. Then I will show you how to frame quadratic equations from the given word problem. So if a word problem is given to you, how to frame the quadratic equation from the given information. Then how to factorize a quadratic equation. Then I am going to explain how to find the roots of an quadratic equation. So in future videos, I am going to completely explain about quadratic equations in depth. So I hope that you will follow all those videos. And if you like this session and if you want to really encourage me, then don't forget to subscribe my channel, share this video to your dear ones and post your comments. Thank you for watching.